joined Pilgrim in my 20s, and I think what I've told people about Pilgrim has always been pretty consistent and pretty simple, that we are a progressive Christian community that is where people come together to work on some really tough questions about faith and to encounter Christ and to grow in our faith. And that means that your doubts and your concerns about what the world means and what faith means are all welcome here. And we're just a group of people who are working that out together. I like the ELCA line, God's work, our hands. And I think that's a good frame for how I think Pilgrim approaches its role in society. That there is good work happening within these four walls, and there's good work happening within each of the people who attend here too. But that's not sufficient good work. We have to be thinking about how does the work we do here and internally affect and grow to help other people in the world. I think one of Pilgrim's most successful and longest lasting ministries has been environmental stewardship, both within our congregation and within our members' homes, and then also engaging in some advocacy and some synod level engagement. We were really involved writing the divestment policy or resolution for the National ELCA to consider. We have divested our own endowment from fossil fuels. I think that's a really cool leadership stance. And a number of us are active in engaging St. Paul politics and other regional efforts to try and represent a faith voice at the table when we talk about environmental sustainability and how important it is to care for God's creation. About half of our members come from within our zip code, or the closest couple zip codes, and the other half come from around the Twin Cities. In fact, there's a lot of people who drive a while to get to Pilgrim because this is a place where they find something unique. I think we do a very good job representing the demographics of our immediate zip code. But St. Paul's a really diverse place, and I think we have more work to do to meaningfully connect with everybody in the city of St. Paul. When I think about what diversity means, there is the first reaction, which is that diversity means racial diversity. But then I sit with that a little bit and I realize that diversity is more than just racial diversity. And there are, hundreds of different ways that people have different lived experiences and different personal identities. And so diversity has a lot of different qualities. And it's hard to say that as a community, you should say this is the one best diversity, and we have to hit this metric of diversity in order to be diverse. So I think Pilgrim, for instance, has done a lot of work over the years welcoming GLBT people into our church, and I think we have a lot of diversity in terms of sexual orientation and gender identity at Pilgrim. And I think that's a real strength. I'm very aware these days that my Lutheran experience is actually maybe the minority, or maybe a increasing minority of the world's Lutheran experience. The average Lutheran in the world doesn't look like me, as a white male, or especially not a 32-year-old white male. But the average Lutheran in the world is an African woman, probably a young 20 or 30-year-old African woman, because churches in Tanzania and other countries are growing so fast. And I think that's a very, powerful thing to recognize, that this Lutheran church here is not the Lutheran church of the world. Well, or it is the Lutheran church of the world, but the experiences and culture we have here is not the only experience and culture in the Lutheran church. And we've been doing a really great job. At Pilgrim, we do a great job of identifying that and bringing in music and culture from other Lutheran traditions around the world. And then recently we've been quite a bit more engaged with our sister congregation in Tanzania, including sending people to Tanzania, and that brought back the experiences of those African Lutherans in a much more kind of experiential, tangible way that we could really, feel connected to those people and see their banner that they made and see their pictures. I think the biggest challenge is getting over that, some days you want to come to church and be in a safe space among people you know and trust and have that friendship circle that you can fall back on. And, life is hard, and so there's enough going on that you need that, and that's one of the reasons we all are part of church, I think. And so, that has to be balanced with the fact that if we don't take risks, if we don't welcome new people, if we don't find ways to speak our voice, our faith perspective more strongly, and in ways that change our culture, we don't have much of a mission to hold us together as this social club at the end of the day. But I really think that risk is actually where we should be most comfortable as a community or as a church. And in fact, I think Jesus took a lot of risks. And so I think Pilgrim actually does a pretty good job of taking risks. They're calculated risks. Maybe they're not rash, we don't rush out and do something, without considering the consequences or implications. But I think that we are taking, risks to try reaching out to new people in our community, to try and solve problems like climate change or social injustice, to try and welcome new groups of people into our doors. And I think that there's probably no upper limit to the amount of risk a church should be comfortable taking when it's, following its mission.